Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our STEAM Careers in Health. This is our second event in the series, and tonight we will be focusing on technology. So we have Ms. Terica Foster with us tonight, and we're going to be talking about radiologic technology. This event is brought to you by Upstate Area Health Education Center, or AHEC, and the National Council for Negro Women in Greenville County section. I am Tiara Scott, and I am the Health Careers Program Coordinator at Upstate AHEC, and this event is brought to you by myself and Dr. Angelica Christie. Yes, the STEAM chair for NCNW. So thank you for joining us. This is a very informal event. Please make sure that your mics are muted. You can have your camera on if you want. You don't have to. If you have any questions during the course of this event that hasn't been answered, we're asking Ms. Terica questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will make sure we get to them. So, Terica, are you ready?
I am ready. Hey, everybody. Good evening.
So, let's start with you just telling us a little bit about yourself.
What about me do y'all want to know? I'm pretty simple. I'm not that exciting. Probably why I chose radiology.
Goodness, Terica. So, what is your exact job title and how long have you been in your job?
So my exact title is radiologic technologist. Um, you'll hear some people say X-ray tech. That's the most common. But the formal name is radiologic technologist. And I have been doing it for 12 years now. I work for Prisma. I just got off work to see if you see my tag. I literally just got in the house. But yeah, I've been there over a decade now. So I think I'm pretty experienced in the field.
You broke up just a little bit. So, you've been there for 12 years, which is a long time. That's over a decade. What drew you to the field?
For me, can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. When I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I always had a love for art. Um, I like to take pictures, I still do, and X-ray is a form of photography. It's an art for me. Instead of taking pictures of people, you're taking pictures of the inside of people and their bones. And I knew that the medical field would be stability, job stability. So that's how I got there. I didn't want to go to art school or anything because I knew it was kind of limited as far as, jobs. So I chose that route. That's how I got here.
Okay. So, what were the education requirements for you to get into that role?
The education requirements, things have changed so much since I've been in school, but the prerequisites are kind of like your standard, like math, English, and I went to Greenville Tech, so they have it on the site. Like all this stuff is laid out real plain. Now, I didn't get to take the high school courses like prior to going in, like a lot of the kids do now. Like Zaria, I don't know if I know you know Zaria, but she took a lot of her stuff prior to going into school. So she's already applied to the nursing program because she already had a lot of that taken out, out the way. For me, it took me to do my prerequisites like a year and a half, like just to get in the program. That's kind of, and I'll say this too, that's kind of a downfall in my opinion of technical schools. Um, I'm not gonna say it's false advertising, but it kind of is to me because once you get in the program, it's 2 years. But prior to getting in the program, you got about 2 more years. So when you finish, you've been the same time as it would take you to get a bachelor's, but you end up with an associate. So that's a disadvantage in my opinion.
So, what advice would you have for someone that is considering this career field, knowing what you know now?
I would definitely, I have a lot of people ask me this question, and I always tell them to shadow. Definitely go volunteer and definitely shadow, get a hands-on feel of what the people do on a day-to-day basis to see if you really enjoy it, if that's something that you really want to make your career. Because for anything that you're thinking about, you have to enjoy it every day, you know. And I do like my job, but I do have some, I'm not gonna say regrets, but I just, there's some things I've learned along the way that I wish I would have done differently.
Tell us
I would,
more.
well, to me, number one is salary wise. Um, this is, you don't make a lot of money doing X-ray. Um, I think, and it's not bad. I just think, especially culturally, we don't sit down with our children and guide them as far as like what I do with my own. And this ain't a parenting session, but I sat down at the table with her and we went over budgeting, how much it costs to buy a house, your household expenses. Like, that's very important because before you decide on a career, I think you need to make sure that you can maintain.
Mhm.
So that's one of my regrets. However, I will say there's so many different modalities in the field of X-ray. And what that means is I'm a regular X-ray tech, but there's CAT scans, there's mammography, there's MRI, there's nuclear medicine, there's radiation medicine. All of that is under the umbrella of radiology technology.
Right.
If you want to make more money, you got to continue.
Right.
You have, and each one of them is a different certificate.
Okay.
And they all, each one of those, you do make more money, but you have to continue going to school and you have to pass a national registry for each of those. So for me, I did continue. I went to mammography. However, I did not take the registry because I didn't like it enough to work in it. But I did go through the schooling for it.
Okay.
That's why I tell people to shadow before you get into something. Because once you're in it, it's kind of hard after you've paid all that money and went to school for that long to turn around and wish you hadn't, you know?
Right.
So I definitely think that's important. Our kids need that guidance, someone to steer them, you know, before you get in and realize I don't want to do this.
So if you had a choice in a different industry, like is there another area that you are interested in pursuing, or is it possible for, because I know that there in every industry that you're in, like there's kind of step by step um kind of jump that you can do. So you have your radiologic techs and your different niches within that. But if you wanted to go beyond that, how hard or how easy is it to transition further past the associate's degree level in radiology? Do you know?
um, it's not really hard. It's just more of, like, for instance, I have considered going back to get my bachelor's, but there's still not a whole lot that you can do, in my opinion, with a bachelor's in radiology. Um, you can, if you're interested in, I'll say this, if you're interested in management or being like an instructor, then you definitely need to take the bachelor's route. For me, that was never I don't like managing people. So I knew that was something I didn't want to do. And you also, to me, you don't make that much more money even getting a bachelor's unless you're gonna go be like the dean at Greenville Tech or.
So for the radiologic technician, it is associate's level radiology certification, so you wouldn't need to go to med school for that. However, if you want to become a radiologist, which is the physician level of working in the field of radiology, you would need to go to med school. So when we start talking about transitioning from going from associate's level to getting your bachelor's, and then you go to med school, that's where that would fit in, Roshni. Um, So yes, you would have a decent amount of math, and we'll ask her about the math when she comes back as far as a radiologist tech. And from an experience factor, I would add that if you became a radiologist, a radiologic technician before you went to med school, it's a great opportunity for you to get those experience hours that you wouldn't have the opportunity to get without a certification.
The classes that would apply towards your radiologic technology degree, with the exception of the gen eds like your English 101, they require a college, well, it's a math
Technology.
155, which does not transfer. Those courses would not apply towards a bachelor's degree. So if you want to go that bachelor's route, it's really important that you explain that to your academic advisor or your guidance counselor so that you make sure you're taking as many transferable classes as you can that would apply to both the radiologic technology degree and the bachelor's degree, if that makes sense.
We had someone ask, do you have to take a lot of math?
It wasn't a lot of math. I want to say it was like math 102 and it's kind of like college. It's college algebra. I think it was only like maybe 2 of them. There is a lot of physics involved.
Can you tell us about the physics aspect of your job?
Ooh, I hate physics. As far as physics, like with X-ray, you work with a lot, like when you talk about the radiation and the rays and all of that. So it's kind of hard to explain it because you can't see it. So that's why I never liked it. It's kind of hard to understand to me. That was the hardest course to me in the radiology program, was the physics portion. The guys seem to always love it. I don't know what that is, but yeah, I don't
Did you see it actually applied in your role, the stuff that you did that you learned in physics, or is it just like a foundational knowledge so that you know how to use the machines?
Yes, it's more of a foundational knowledge. You really don't use it.
Okay.
Now I don't. In one of the other modalities, they may use it,
Okay.
but I don't directly.
So kind of following up on that, what types of technology do you use in your role from a day to day, and how have you seen technology change over the 12 years that you've been in your role?
That's a good question because X-ray is everything technology. So I would say that you definitely need to kind of have some type of general knowledge about computers because everything, well, I mean, that's just generation. So I don't think most people will have a problem. Now we do have, and I don't want to sound like mean, but we have like some older people that come in and sometimes they can struggle with it. Because there's a lot of things that we have to kind of fix on our own sometimes, and it's a lot of computer stuff. And there's also something I didn't mention that when I talked about the other modalities, another field that you can go into is, we call it PACS, but that's how the doctors and physicians view their images, and all of that's computer. So I have a lot of my other coworkers who have went on to do that, but that's one of those positions where you have to kind of be on call all the time, because if anything crashes, you got to do that. So you definitely have to have like a lot of IT people like that. So that's another thing you can do. But you asked about how I've seen it change, mostly in software. Like we have seen, like we just got installation of new equipment a couple of months ago. Everything's now digital. When I first started over a decade ago, it was film-based then. And we had a dark room where you dealt with the chemicals and all of that. That may be foreign to some people. But it was actually like you seen back in the days where you had photography and they would do the red rooms and the dark rooms. That's how it was for X-ray. Well, then over the course of these years, we've done away with all of that. So we are now completely digital. You get your images like instantly. Um, as far as the equipment, it has changed, but not a whole lot. Um, I don't really know how to explain that unless you kind of see it, you know. Um, but it's definitely changed tremendously over the course of these years, and you have to be able to grow with it. Because something I have learned about the X-ray field is you have to kind of be self-sufficient and independent as a worker. You don't get much help. It's always kind of like they expect you to do everything. So you kind of operate in a lot of different roles, in my opinion. Like you got to be the one to call the techs out if something's going wrong or figure it out on your own, or you don't really have too many people standing over you, you know? So you kind of, in my opinion, you need to know how to be able to work independently.
Okay. So you talked about being self-sufficient and being independent. Are there any other skills that you feel like are important for this role?
Oh, I definitely do. There's a lot. And I'm so glad that like I got the chance and the opportunity. So thank you. Because I think a lot of people don't know a lot about the imaging world. Something that I experience a lot wherever I go. I was looking at the question. Something that I experience everywhere I go is people always assume you're a nurse. They don't even know X-ray techs exist. So if someone is interested in this field, they have to be okay with not being valued. And I really do mean that. Like we're on an island on our own. Like every time you go to the doctor, pretty much, if something is wrong, you're gonna have an X-ray. But for some reason, people don't think about us. It's always you're a nurse. Like I went on lunch yesterday, and the girl, I was at Firehouse, and the girl was like, "Oh, you're a nurse. I'm gonna give you a discount." And I'm so over it now. I don't even correct it. And it's not any pun toward like a nurse. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just like we don't exist. And that's kind of it's sad, but no one, like I've never heard a child say I want to grow up and be an X-ray tech. You hear them say I want to be a doctor or a nurse. But there's so many other fields, and careers in the medical field. And that's just one that we're looked over. And it's kind of sad to me being X-ray tech because we are the eyes. If you don't get an X-ray, the doctors can't diagnose you. So we're very important, like in the treatment, but no one really looks at it that way. Like they cannot diagnose you without an X-ray tech.
So
I'm sorry, but you did. I got off course for a minute, but you did ask me about what other things you need to, as far as skills. I would definitely say you need to be compassionate, full of care and concern. I don't think a lot of people realize that X-ray is very similar to nursing in a lot of ways. You will have to inject people, you will have to draw blood, you will have to clean up vomit, you will have to go to surgery, see them slice and dice people. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think we just push a button and that's it. We're actually called by a lot of people button pushers, and it's so offensive to us because they don't know that we do all of that. So this is not the career for you if you don't like people or you're not a people person. I think any job in healthcare, you have to be compassionate for people. The things that they teach you in school, a lot of it when you get out in the actual field is not the same. Because you're going to have a lot of people that can't do a lot of things and you have to assist them a lot, So that's one of the things I think about. I think you have to be fast paced, be able to stand on your feet a lot, because there are some days we don't even get lunch breaks. It's all day. Those are some of the main skills, and a lot of people think we just sit all day. We get that a lot. but we work behind a computer a lot. So I think people interpret it, you're not doing anything when you're at the computer. But in between patients, we're doing computer things.
So based on what you do as far as taking the images, what is the difference between your role and being a radiologist? So like, are you guys interpreting images, or are you just taking them and preparing them for the physician to evaluate?
We just take them for the physicians to evaluate. That's a very, very good question because we get a lot of people that call us radiologists and we're like, oh no, we are not the doctors. And that's something they tell you from day one in the program. We do not diagnose. So if you go in for an x-ray, we are not allowed to tell you what we see because we don't have the titles to do that.
But you are trained to be able to interpret the images.
Not really. We can tell you if something's kind of like we know because of our experience if we see something, but you're not trained to read them. That's diagnosing.
Okay.
That's what the doctors do. And they are like that's why they top paid. Because I don't know if y'all know that or not, but radiologists are like one of the most top paid people.
Okay.
As doctors.
So outside of X-ray, what other fields? Because I know you mentioned like you have the different body systems that you can work as an X-ray technician within. But are there other? Well, there are. What other fields of imaging can a person go into? Like for example, I learned 2 summers ago, I believe, about cardiovascular imaging and how it's used. So what are some other types of imaging that can you tell us about the different types of imaging outside of X-ray? Because I think people always think like, oh, you got to get an X-ray, but you actually can get a CAT scan and a MRI and ultrasound, all that kind of stuff.
You hit some of them. There's CAT scans, there's mammography, detects breast cancer. That's what I went to school for. There's bone density. A lot of people probably don't know about bone density. That's more for people when you get about 55 years or older, and then your bones start to deteriorate, and they may send you in to check your bones. Or like if you have osteoporosis, they may scan you for that. That's bone density. MRI, nuclear medicine, ultrasound, radiation therapy, and then there's PET scans. So it's a lot of them.
So for each one, would you have to go through a different certification program?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But you have to go through radiology technology first.
Okay.
The only one that's separate from, and I hope I'm making sense, the only one that you can get into without going through radiology first is ultrasound.
Okay.
And they recently just did that at Greenville Tech a couple of years ago. When I was there, you still had to go through radiology first. But it's now its own program.
Is there a reason why it has been separated, or?
I'm sure it is, but I don't know because like when I was there, you had to take it first.
Okay.
I don't think they should have did that. Because to me, you need the basis of radiology first before you go into any of the other entities, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But they all kind of are different. Like MRI uses magnets. That's not a form of radiation. That's when you get into the physics, like I was saying. It's kind of confusing to kind of like explain it, or kind of hard to understand. Ultrasounds don't use x-rays. So, and a lot of people are familiar with that because most people have babies or have ultrasounds. I think nuclear med does not use x-rays either. So I think ultrasound, nuke med, and MRI don't use x-ray.
Okay.
100%. I have to. It's been so long.
So I know you talked about like how you guys are the eyes of just diagnostics. How has the pandemic affected your career or your industry? Like, are you doing more x-rays now since you're looking at people's lungs, you look at people's lungs, or have you been impacted in any way?
We have definitely been impacted, but not directly because where I work, and that's something else I'm gonna kind of give an insert on. I work in a physician's office and we just do the upper extremities. So, like arms, elbows, shoulders, hands, wrists. That's kind of what we do. They call them hand surgeons, hand orthopedics. But the people at the hospital have been more directly impacted by that, the x-ray techs there, because they're doing a lot of chest x-rays. But we have been impacted because it has cut our business a lot. We don't see as many patients right now. Things are still a little. I was laid off for a while. A lot of us got, I'm sure y'all heard it on the news, but we got furloughed. So we definitely were impacted. That was different. Thankfully, we were all called back. That's something else I kind of want to say about the field, the job market.
Okay.
I don't feel like there's like an influx of jobs a lot. So that's something to take in consideration. To me, it's not real easy to move from job to job. They kind of go in spurts. Like you may see a lot of them posted, and then for years you won't see anything.
So we have, I would say with that, I think a lot of it is just like people consolidating positions and cross training.
Yes.
So you see a lot more cross training that's happening with different roles than you did before.
Now they make cross training really hard now. Back in the day, they did that a lot, but now not so much. Trying to figure out how to explain it. You have to take a national registry for each one of those that I listed. So if someone cross trains you, you still gotta take the registry. The hard thing about that is in order to pass the registry, you gotta have the book knowledge. Someone can cross train you all day long. The technical part is easy. The book stuff is kind of the hard stuff.
So get into the technical parts of it because we're getting close to time. I want to make sure we get these 2 questions from our students. So, and I think you can answer these both together. It's like, what exactly does a radiologic tech does? What's the process for each X-ray? And then Ida wanted to know how much radiation is used in X-ray.
Okay, how much radiation? I'll start with that one. I mean, you have to ask. Let me find where the questions at.
It's in the chat.
Let me see. Okay, so as far as how much radiation is used, that depends on what type of body part you're getting x-rayed. So like what I do, hands, wrists, fingers, shoulders, those are very minimal. I can't give you like a number. I don't even remember all of that, like exactly a number. But if you go to get a stomach x-ray or chest x-ray, the larger body parts are more. So if you come in and just get like a finger, hand, or whatever, you're getting more radiation in the sun outside, to be honest. And we have a lot of people that come in, they freak out. Like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die from cancer. I stand in with patients all the time. I have to. I do a lot of pediatrics. I have to hold them, they can't be still. And I'm never worried because we get monitored. That's some stuff, other job responsibilities that we have to do. But we get monitored. They call it a dosimeter. That's what reads our x-rays. And most people's recording is 0 a month. It's not even that much. Mine is a little more. I do kind of get in a lot with patients because, I'm kind of the older one. So I don't really care as much as like the younger ones. They may want to have more kids, but I don't worry about that. So it just depends on what body part and what you're having done. If you're going to get a CT scan, you're going to get massive amounts. That's a whole different bracket. And I can't tell you much about CT because I don't work in it, but you definitely get a lot more. Just regular x-ray, you don't get a lot. Other question. What it says, what do we do? in the process. So what we do is just simply put, we do take images of the body. Um, so if you go out, you break your arm, break your wrist, go to the emergency room, they're usually you're gonna have an X-ray tech come and X-ray that body part. Or if you go in with a call for sinus infection, they're gonna X-ray, your chest. It's pretty. That's the simplest way that I can put it, but it's kind of really involved. Um, we do surgery. A lot of people don't know that. There's always has to be an X-ray person in surgery. I hated surgery, so I don't do surgery. You would have to stand in for cases 12 hours on end. And it was really boring to me. And you have to be able to handle that type of blood and all that. I'm okay with it. It didn't bother me. I just thought it was extremely boring to stand in one spot all day. Taking pictures. But for the most part, that's kind of simply. I mean, I would say you need to shadow someone if you really want to see what we do, on a daily basis. And that's pretty much the process. Now, since everything is digital, it's like just like you take a picture with your iPhone, it comes right up. Back in the day, the process was a lot more difficult because we had to process the films. But now it's really easy. Um, your workload also depends on where you work, but it varies. A day in the life of X-ray is different every day. There are some days I can do 50 people, and then there's some days we'll do 10. But I also work at another job in X-ray. They do 100 a day. So that's why I said you kind of have to be fast paced. Like it's not one of those jobs you get to go in and not do anything all day. For the most part, you're always busy. But that's just depending on where you work. And you do have different places you can work. I work, like I stated before, in a physician's office. You can work in the hospital. You can work in urgent cares. If you work in urgent care, if you choose to go that route, you're going to be operating as the nurse as well. So you're going to be doing from start to finish. When the patient comes in, you usually take their vitals, blood pressure. They may need a flu shot. They may need, blood drawn. We may have to refer them to the ER if it's something really bad. So that's what a lot of people don't know about X-ray techs. We kind of operate in both realms, depending on where you work. And it's up to the individual, what you like to do. Hospital, I didn't choose hospital because I didn't want to do 12-hour shifts and weekends and holidays. So that's something people need to know. Like, what type of, hours you want to have. I work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. It worked best with my schedule. My daughter plays sports, so I needed to be off. So that depends on the person too. But as far as the pay, you're going to make more if you work in the hospital. You definitely take a big pay cut if you work in office setting. So that's just something
Thanks, Erica.
You're welcome. I hope I answered everybody's questions.
I believe you did. So we are now going to, and we'll post, we actually had Terica complete a career questionnaire, answering a couple of the questions that we asked her today, in addition to a few extra ones, on our website. In addition to this session that we recorded, we'll have that up there for anybody to go back and watch again. So we're going to now transition to Miss Addie Jones. She is the career development facilitator at Spartanburg High School. And she's going to talk to you guys about just ways that you can further your career exploration, and take advantage of the opportunities that you have in your regions.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, good. Well, one of the things I noticed that Terica talked about, which was very interesting, is getting an idea, students, to research your career interests. Have maybe 3 or 4 in mind, but research them as much as possible to find out all the details. every different career has certain caveats that are specific to that career. But then there are other careers that, say I want to be a nurse, for example, but I start off in school and maybe I have some other responsibilities. I've taken all these classes, but I'm not a nurse. But now maybe I can go be an X-ray technician or radiology technician. So they can branch off into different caveats. One of the other things I like to tell students in the healthcare is any other profession, understand the requirements for that educational career. Make sure if I am going to Greenville Tech, I am not trying to go to Greenville Tech to be a physician. Not that you can't, but that would not be the route to take. Um, Also know the different areas. For example, if I want to be, for example, a guidance counselor, well, I can go get a bachelor's in education, but you cannot be a guidance counselor until you have a master's. So understand how much investment you would like to put in that career. I don't want to set myself up or you set yourself up for a career that you know there may be other barriers that would prevent you from getting into that career. So those are some of the things that you need to look at. And I want to give you a good website to go to look at those things. All of you in the state of South Carolina, if you're in high school or middle school, should have access to SCOIS, which is www.scois.net. And it's a very good tool. Especially, they have a large amount of careers on here. And one of the things I suggest if you're in the South Carolina setting and you plan on staying in South Carolina, go into SCOIS under the educational setting, and they have a drop down box for something called a reality check, which is one of the things that brought this to mind when Miss Terica talked about, to give an idea of what kind of income or salary you will need to live off of. What are your goals? What are your aspirations to learn your cost of living, where the jobs are? People think jobs are all over in all areas, even in South Carolina. There's certain areas that you live in that certain jobs are going to be more prominent and prevalent than they are in other areas. So that's part of your research as well. Does anyone have any questions or anything else they'd like to ask? Hello?
I don't see anything. Thank
Okay.
you, Ms.
And one of the other things I would like to say, sit down with your parent. That's one of the things Terica talked about. Sit down with your parent or a family member, talk about careers, find out what careers they have. It may be your neighbor or someone that you like, a friend that's a big sister, a mentor. Ask about careers from their area, find out the education. One of the things that I also want to tell you guys, things are constantly changing. So what I tell you today to get into a school or to get in a program, next year may be totally different. They may require you to take an additional math class or additional science classes, but that's all a part of researching that career and knowing what is required. Also, another thing for South Carolina students, you may want to look at your career centers. Just like Terica said, you can get a lot of courses out of the way. It can help you move very quickly through a program if you take some of those classes in high school. But if you don't sit down and plan and start looking at those things, you won't know that you need to do that. And if you don't pay attention to what is offered to you in the guidance department, they offer those things sometimes. The students are not aware because they don't pay attention to their emails or listen. Or ask, go to your guidance counselor, go to your career counselor, ask them for these information because it will save you a lot of time, a lot of heartbreak, and a lot of money.
Thank you, Miss Addie. And I think that is a perfect segue into the AHEC Minute because that is what I'm here for, guys. So, if you have questions about career exploration or you're looking for opportunities to volunteer or shadow, or you have just questions in general about college applications or scholarships or anything in between. Maybe you're interested in pursuing healthcare, but you're not sure what you want to do, or you have an idea about what you want to do, but you don't know exactly what it takes to get there. That's what we do in the Health Careers program at Upstate AHEC. And guess what? It is free. Don't we love free? So if you have questions, if you need someone to talk to, you do not have to be an active participant in our programs to access that resource. I am available every day, Monday through Friday, where to talk to students about what they want to do and how they can get those opportunities to explore careers. So we start from the baseline of doing interest inventories and looking into what you want to do, and then we work together to create those plans of how to get there. One of the ways we do that is through our Health Careers Academy, and I'm just going to share my little window for the quick like. In our Health Careers Academy, what we do is we meet every second and fourth Tuesday. And I don't know if I'm messing this up or making it better or what am I doing? Here we go. We meet every second and fourth Tuesday. We bring in career speakers like we did tonight and like we're going to do throughout the rest of our series to talk to you about what we do, what they do, how they do it. We do hands-on labs. So we do everything from dissections to learning how to do injections to vital signs, CPR, you name it. We encourage self-directed study. We encourage research. We do soft skills training. So we try to make sure that you are well-rounded in your development and in your aspiration to becoming a healthcare professional. And we do this every second and fourth Tuesday at our center in Greenville, South Carolina. But if you're not in Greenville, we still have resources for you, whether it's online or virtual. We can make it happen. So if you have a question about how you can further your exploration and you don't know where to start, let's have a conversation because I am here for you. And if you email me at hcpstudent@upstateahec.org, it's the email address that sent you an email today. I'll be happy to help in whatever way that I can. So that's about Upstate AHEC. And now I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Christie so she can tell you guys about NCNW.
Good evening, guys. I'm so happy that you're with us tonight, and it's my pleasure to share with you a little bit about the National Council of Negro Women. We were established by Mary McLeod Bethune decades ago, and we are an international organization of over 6,000 men and women. Our goal is to uplift members of the African American community, and we do this in a variety of ways. And one of our pillars is STEAM, to promote STEAM careers, help young people to be aware of opportunities as it relates to professional advancement and what it takes to actually pursue those careers. And those careers are in the area of STEAM. So I'm honored that they asked me to serve as the chair of this committee and that we were able to partner with Ms. Tiara to make this first series focused on health careers. The Greenville section is a revitalized section. My mom was actually a member of the original National Council of Negro Women in Greenville, and the organization sort of fizzled out after a few years, but we have restructured and we were rechartered and established as a section in the fall of 2019. And so we are just really excited that we are able to impact the Greenville community the way that we have in those few months since we have been established or reestablished. So we have programming for young people, and hopefully next week we'll be able to have the chair of our young people's initiative a part of this event so that she can talk about some of the initiatives that they have going on. But please just keep your ears and eyes open. We do promote a lot through Facebook and social media. We have a Facebook web page a Facebook page. And so if you're interested in finding out about the activities that we're doing, feel free to join that page. In the fall, we took students, 2 busloads actually, on a tour of HBCUs in South Carolina and North Carolina and even Virginia. So we do a lot of activities like that. Back in the winter, we did a series viewings of Now They See Us. That's what it was called? Now They See Us. And we had a psychologist who helped facilitate the dissection and processing of what the students were watching so that we could keep it in context and learn how to manage and deal with our emotions that came from viewing that movie. So we're doing a lot of things, and we'd love for you to join us. So if you have any questions, just post them in the comments in the chat, and I'll be happy to circle back around and answer them. Thank you, Tiara.
Thank you. So, you guys, that wraps up our session for tonight. And I would just like to say again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Terica. Thank you, Miss Addie. This session is being recorded, so we will have it up hopefully by the end of the week. Still working on the other one. But if you have not registered for our next session, I definitely encourage you to do so. We will be meeting again next Tuesday at 6 p.m. We will have an industrial engineer, Mark Macon. He's a fellow Clemson alum. Go Tigers. And we will be focusing on the engineering sector and how that applies to healthcare. I think a lot of people, when they think about engineering, they think about mechanical or computer in the sense of those aspects of using cars and things, but you can do anything in healthcare. And that's what we'll be exploring even further next week. So thank you guys for joining us, and we hope that you register, and have a great night.